What is going on, my friends? Welcome back to Follow Your Path, the podcast, the YouTube channel that is here to support you in walking your unique path, unfolding that unique blueprint that is inside of you, that is going to make this world a better place, a more authentic place, and a place that has more freedom. Because when you turn your light on, when you say yes to what's in your heart, your aura, your energy, your presence really is so valuable, and it gives other people permission to do the same thing. Whether you realize it or not, your presence affects the environment that you're in when you allow yourself to be in that place. So it's such a beautiful role to play and a thing to say yes to, and it's why we're here. So in a world that is deeply inauthentic, every person that's listening to this and tuning in at any point, it's you just know that's you. You're here to do that. You're here to know who you are, and you're here to paint with your unique colors that have not been seen before. And you're here to contribute and offer that unique love that you have, that energy you have to life. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm a yes to. And my dharma is to help other people do the same thing. We're creating right now a world that is going to look so different, right? Where the pendulum has swung all the way to this end, where we're seeing more inauthenticity than ever before. We're seeing more people close themselves off, go into fear. They're run by their patterns. They're looping in the same behaviors. They're clinging on to what's known, which is classic part of the ego death and resistance to that. And then also at the same time, there's more people that are stepping onto their authentic path than ever before. So it's the best of times, it's the worst of times. It's really what you're creating. It's really the experience that you are choosing and realizing that you have that choice. You're realizing you are so much more than you could have ever possibly imagined. And what a gift it is to wake up to the knowing that you're not little you, that you're not the voice in your head, which is one of the big topics of today. To start to be able to differentiate yourself from the narration in your mind. And I will always harp so much on meditation, especially right now. If you're not doing that, you are at a severe disadvantage. I think meditation has a stigma. There's this idea that you're cross-legged and you're just like going into trying to get to nirvana, and people are missing the utility of it and why you need to do it during the information age. Our brains are processing the most insane amounts of information than ever before. Like all of the information from the beginning of human history all the way till I think it was like 2004, we're processing that in a day now. And so if your brain is not getting exercise and it's not getting space like you would do for your physical body to stay in shape, because the lack of nutrients in the soil and how depleted that's gotten, and then supplementing to make up for that, no wonder our mental health crisis is the way that it is, because our brains are on overdrive. And not to mention, with all of our survival programming and stress and fearful focus, uh, and the cortisol flushing through our system all day, it's just a mess. If you're not meditating, I would highly advise that you begin that practice. And I'm gonna talk about why. And this is a big point of today's episode, and that is allowing yourself to become the observer of your reality so that you can start to disengage and disentangle from that voice in your head that you're used to thinking is you. That's one of the reasons meditation is so powerful, because you're sitting in a chair, 15 minutes, and you're just watching. You're just observing pure awareness. You're noticing sensations in your body. More importantly, you're noticing your brain just automatically generating thoughts. You got to be able to see your own insanity. Well, it's not you. It's just an automatic thing happening in your brain, right? if you can start to see that, you're going to start to see how crazy the brain is and how automatic it is and how these thoughts are just coming in to try to get your attention and your agreement to them. And you're the one listening to them, right? It's like you're the consumer walking through the mall and all these shops are trying to dazzle you and trying to persuade you to come into their store and buy stuff. It's really the same thing. These thoughts are vying for your attention, which is the inward experience of what we're experiencing on the outer plane, which is, all the advertisers, all the algorithms, all the big tech companies fighting for our attention, paying unfathomable money to find ways to glue your attention to whatever product they have, brand, media outlets. Like it's a big war for our attention. It's our life force energy. And that's the most powerful thing that we have. It's our currency. That's what they do in elections, right? Electrons. They're trying to get as many electrons over to them as possible so they become the most charged and they have the most power. So if you practice, I love this analogy where if you have played any sports and you do practices each week, you hone your craft for a reason so that when you get in the game, you know what to do. You get in the game where it counts. And the analogy between sports and real life here is you being in the game and on the field is when your triggers come up, when your nervous system goes into fight or flight, when it goes into scarcity, when it goes into I'm not enough, and how the body feels when those stories are going on. If you've been practicing being the observer and realizing that story playing is not you, it's tied to the emotion that got triggered, then you have a chance to respond differently. And the beautiful thing about that is transformation only comes from the opportunity of the trigger happening and you responding in a different way. Because let's say abundant Sean, who's existing in a parallel reality in this quantum space that we're living in this dream, he responds to things way differently than, let's say, old Sean or little me Sean, who thinks he's the narrator in his head. The example that I like to give is if I'm choosing to be abundant Sean and eradicate this poverty consciousness from my field. My great grandparents came over here from Ireland, the famine, all that good stuff, the immigration, no one would hire Irish people, right? So the poverty consciousness is really in there. And I see it expressing in this lifetime. And so I know I'm alchemizing that, right? So if I'm choosing and committed to being abundant Sean and experiencing an abundant life and coming into alignment with the truth that is abundance, because that is the truth, there's nothing lacking. There's nothing, everything is energy. And whether that's in front of me or not, if I can stay in the place of knowing that it's all around me, then I'm going to get a reality reflected back in that experience. So if I'm abundant Sean and I'm that version of me, if I was to get, let's say, an unexpected bill in the mail, abundant me abundance consciousness wouldn't touch me. I wouldn't react. I'd be like, okay, cool. Yeah, I'll deal with that. And then I'd continue doing what I was doing. Now, scarcity version of me, poverty consciousness version of me would freak out about that and let himself fall into a story of lack and limitation. And how am I going to fix this? What am I going to do? And I would have this experience that might last for an hour in my nervous system. Cortisol is flushing through. And that is the consequence of that being in that ride of consciousness, right? Poverty. And why do you think it sucks so much? Why do we think that our body responds that way with these stress hormones? Because it's not true. And your body's an instrument that communicates to you through feeling, and it's letting you know you're outside of truth. You're out of bounds. And it can only do that through the feeling. So That's a good example of what I'm talking about, right? You are the chooser. You are the chooser in each moment. And the more you can be an observer and notice these automatic stories that are all the way back to your childhood, these interpretations that first came in when you were 7, this is how you free yourself, guys. It really is. And if you're not meditating and creating that space between stimuli and reaction, it's going to make it very challenging to do this because, yeah, we know the emotional waves are strong. They can pull you down and you'll identify with them and come into agreement with them very quickly because you're used to doing that. But if you say, I'm choosing to experience the freedom that has always been there, I'm ready to come into alignment with that. That's the life that I'm going to live. You've got to be practicing this. You can't just expect it's going to happen in the same way. You can't expect to get super strong without going to the gym and exercising. And if you had that expectation for results without doing any of that, that would just be insane, right? So we're not doing that for the mind. We're not giving the mind what it needs to allow us to have these new experiences where we choose differently, we respond differently from the outer stimuli, right? Because, and this is where acceptance is huge. If you look around you right now and your reality is not ideal, and there's things that you don't like, you've got to get to a place of forgiving yourself and accepting everything that's there, that it was created by you from a lower consciousness. It was created subconsciously from your beliefs that are not yours, and your outer reality is just showing you that. So the thing would be to say, okay, I see that. I see that the poverty consciousness or the separation or the belief that I'm not good enough is showing me that playing out in relationships, job scenarios, barely paying your bills, whatever it is. Okay, cool. I got that. I accept it. I wasn't aware of it in this way. And now what do I choose to do from here? What do I choose to do with this? And it does not come from this is a problem that I need to fix, which I got into in an earlier episode. Problem consciousness will only create more of itself. This comes from neutrality, and neutrality will be so much easier for you if you engage in practices like meditation. And it's not hard, guys. You sit in a chair, you can put on some relaxing music or binaural beats, and you just go into observer mode for 15 minutes and watch your body try to squirm, watch your mind, wow, we're going to forget about this and let's go do this chore and this errand. And blah, 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 blah. It's crazy, but it's so valuable to see that automatically happening and realize that it's not you. So then throughout your day, you don't get pulled down into that and you can differentiate yourself from it. So that's one. That's one of the big points I wanted to say. Be the observer. And by the way, quantum physics tells us this. When you observe something from a higher perspective, you see it for what it is, not as the limited version of you. You're zoomed out, you can see it for what it is, and therefore you have the response from that higher perspective of, oh, if I'm this version of me, if I'm aligning with that, how would he respond to this? That is a powerful, powerful place to operate from. And so the other piece of this that is crucial that I'm excited to dive into, because again, I don't think it's talked about nearly enough. We're evolving. We are in the cocoon stage, becoming butterflies, which is going from the small self, little me, ego, mind, identity, to the knowingness that we are this moment. I'm not my labels. I'm not Sean. I'm not this body. I'm pure consciousness. I am the divine in form. I'm the universe localized, expressing itself. Life is experiencing itself through me, through these eyes. And we're making that shift, right, from one to the other. And as part of that, things happen. There's a transmutation occurring where we've been taught to navigate this human experience through the mental plane. And that's worked for a while. And we've seen society, right? The complexity of everything is a reflection of the mind. And it's gotten overwhelming, right? Look at all the laws, look at all the statutes, and it's just so complex. And we're now shifting and evolving to the heart, to the intuition being our guide and our compass through this experience. And people have, especially the more intellectual people, again, I've talked about this in other episodes, but I really want to highlight this here. We were trained in school, right? Be on the left side of your brain, problem, reaction, solution, who, what, when, where, how, why. That's what we're taught. And now we're in this place of balance across the board. Our masculine and feminine, our left and right hemispheres of the brain, all of the things. And there's a balance between the mind and the heart. So it's not just all the mind trying to navigate this experience. It can't do it. And it's forcing us to not do it from that place. It's like, oh, you can do it from there, from the mental plane, but that's not going to be fun. And that's going to feel like so much effort. You're going to waste so much energy. And through that process, it's going to get us to finally slow down at some point and come back to the intuition. Open up the intuition, open up to the guidance system that we all have. Now, when you're someone that's living very fast paced, as I have been, it's hard to let go of that. And so when challenges arise and you're making a lot of shifts, your brain it'll ask the question of, how do I do this? How? And that will keep you trapped. It will keep you overwhelmed. The brain cannot figure out this puzzle. It only has the memory to rely on. It only has past experiences. And we have this challenge that's opening up that's never been here before. We're making this transformation of going into unfamiliar territory, and the mind has no idea how to deal with that. It's not supposed to. It's supposed to just choose how the situation that's unfolding gets to be seen, how it gets to be interpreted, if at all. If you want to interpret it and make meaning of it, you can. I would invite doing it through the lens of empowerment and trust and love and excitement, right? So the intuition is coming online. For people watching this and listening, this is happening for you. This is the lifetime to really drop down into this and let this start to guide you. It is the compass. It's the feeling in the solar plexus. It's going to take you where you need to go, and the solution to these more complex issues and challenges will be given to you in the moment. It's for you to receive. Your brain is a receiver. It's not a creative aspect of yourself. It's a receiver. The moment, your intuitive flow, your flow state is what brings in the solutions that have not been experienced by you before. And so this is where we want to be. This is why companies are spending billions of dollars of research on flow state. It's being in the moment and receiving what you need and allowing things to be more effortless. It's the complete fucking opposite of the grind hustle culture that's been shoved in our face and pushed down our throats. Again, that worked for a time during the Wolf of Wall Street period, and that we needed that to evolve. But now we're getting to the place of like, okay, we're waking up to our spiritual nature, and you got to learn these things. This is part of the deal. So the how is not going to work. So notice your brain obsessed with the how. Who, what, where, how, when, why. One of my favorite mentors taught me that these questions are all facets of the logical mind, but they disconnect you from God, from source, from the universe, because the universe does not ask how. It doesn't do that. It doesn't know that. That's a human thing that the brain tries to do to make meaning and interpret something and find an answer. because we were trained to do it. Let me give an example of this to make it more clear. Let's say I have an intention to make $1 million in the next year. My brain doesn't know how to do that, but my soul, my higher self, my intuition, my subconscious knows how to do all of that because it has everything. Everything is contained within it for all of us. So if I keep my focus and my attention on, I'm receiving $1 million this year, I don't need to know anything about how that's going to happen. I can watch my brain try to put together all these pieces of like, okay, well, maybe if I do this for work and I open up this thing and that, like it's just going to short circuit because it hasn't had that experience before. But if I give that up and I keep my attention, my life force energy flowing into the idea and the excitement and the knowingness of this year, I experienced receiving $1 million. It's already done. It's already here. God's taking care of it. What that will do is it'll activate my conscious mind, my reticular activation system, and I will start to filter my reality to look for opportunities to find different ways that could happen. And that's when your mind is going to work for you instead of working against you like we're used to. What an incredible thing when your mind goes to work for you, when you give it a job and a task to go out there and start looking for those things. And the more that we can relax and stay in that mode of receptivity, we can actually receive beyond what we've had. But when you're frantic and up in the mind and you get tension in your body, you're closed off, you're saying no to possibilities, and you're going back into your memory, into past experiences to try to figure out a solution here. And that is not the wisdom of your soul. That is an old construct. That's the old way to do things. That's the 3D game board. That is not the 5D space that we're entering into, which is a higher consciousness, a higher octave where you do things differently and you realize who you are and things come to you. When you know who you are, people, circumstances, opportunities, everything that you need will come to you. And your job is to keep your attention in the place of, I have everything that I need. I love my life. I'm grateful for everything that's coming and happening. And here's what I'd like to do. Here's what I'd like to explore. Here's what I'd like to experience. From a curious, playful place. Survivalism keeps you rooted into what's been. And that is what we are purging, ladies and gentlemen. I know it's not easy. It's really deep in there, but it can be done. It can be done. And the circumstances of your life, I'm imagining, are lining up to give you those feelings in your nervous system where you have the opportunity while it's happening to say, no, thank you. And here's how the real me would respond to this. I would see it for the truth of what it is. Wow, thank you for the opportunity to become what I have chosen to be. I could not anchor that in and embody it without this choice point given to me through this experience, through this, what's happening in my nervous system. That's the only way transformation can take place. That's you being on the field. In the game, it's happening. It's not practice mode. It's going on in my body right now. I have to let that part know that I'm in control. The soul has taken the wheel. The ego's in the driver's seat. Here we go. And the ego will start to feel more safe. It will come for the ride, and everybody gets to have fun. And there's no more of the old addiction of the ego feeling like it has to grab the wheel and control everything. It can't do it. It's way too much. We're evolving. Amazing. Cool. Beautiful. I love it. I love what's happening right now. We're all going in that direction. So to ground this in, meditation is going to be your most powerful exercise, ally, support system, because it's the one thing that's going to help you the most experientially be the observer and pull yourself out of the weeds of the mind so that you'll be able to see it automatically judging things, automatically doing its stories, and you'll be able to witness it doing that. And you'll be like, ah, okay, yep, that's happening. I'm not identifying with it or getting pulled down into agreement with it that I used to do all the time unconsciously. And now, what would I choose from here, from that higher perspective? Let that become your best friend. Wake up in the morning, sit in a chair for 15 minutes, and just witness and watch what happens. I'll get biblical for a second here because this applies. This doesn't matter. I don't care if you're Catholic, Christian, the way that you were raised. The Bible has so much wisdom inside of it. And I didn't know that until someone started to point this out to me. And then I started watching Bill Donahue videos. Brilliant guy that's like, hey, this book is allegory. This is all about the mind. These characters are all different facets of the psyche of the universal mind. And he talks about, if people are familiar with the story of Cain and Abel, Cain is the left side. It's the logic. He gets jealous of the brother Abel, who is the right side of the hemisphere of the brain, which is favored by God, as it says in the book. And Cain kills Abel. So they also mention it, which it represents the logic killing the imagination and wanting to create resistance when you want to sit down and meditate or sit down and do some deep breath. The logical part of you, the ego, does not want that because it's used to control. And these are things that start to dissolve it. The other piece of this is they talk about it throughout the Bible, and that is seated at the right hand of the Father, cast your net on the right side of the boat. Everything's on the right side. And they talk about tithing. They talk about give 10% to God. And I didn't know what that meant. I always tied it to money. You know, you go to church and you would put money in a basket, that type of thing. What I didn't realize is that Bill Donahue brilliantly explains you tithe 10% to God, meaning you're in meditation for 10% of your day, which would be roughly, an hour, where you are not in your identity mode. You are in pure awareness. That is your connection to the universe. That is where you are in your truth. That's where you receive guidance, downloads, insights, solutions that you're needing. And it's also helping you to root yourself into the truth of who you are. You do that 1 hour a day, it's going to have profound results, and it has in my life. So that's why something like the Bible is so useful if it's taken out of its religious dogma stuff. And so I've been tithing an hour a day because I understand the utility now. I didn't before. I thought meditation was like a chore. It's not. It is what we've got to be doing right now, or else we're going to be in trouble. We're going to be stressed. We're going to be stuck in the old self. You've got to be able to observe these aspects of you. It's the only way you're going to be able to respond differently. So there's that piece. There's the piece of notice yourself asking how, and expand beyond that into knowingness of it's already done, and keep the attention on the outcome. Keep the attention on the picture that you would like to create, what it would be like to be that version of you now. That's creative energy. That's not going into the memory and trying to find a fix for something. Reality will shape and move around you to make it happen if you can hold the picture in your mind and keep the focus on the thing, on the you that you want to become. You want to be confident? It's here right now. And you're just going to get rid of the things that were on top of the confidence. You're going to get rid of the insecurity. You're going to stop agreeing with that. You're going to stop telling that story. And you're going to be that you now. How does confident you walk? How do they speak to people? How do they show up in a room? How do they live their life? That's what you put your focus on. That is 5D consciousness, higher octave consciousness. So those two things I'm going to leave you with, because that alone will be very powerful. It's going to make a massive impact on your life, as it has for mine. And it's going to help you to, again, receive the guidance that is unique to your path. Because the way that life channels through you and expresses through you is different than everyone else. And if you create space to allow that to happen more, your antenna is going to expand. Your receptivity is going to expand. More is going to come in. That is the most you. You're going to be drawn to things that are the most you. The people are going to come in that help support that, the opportunities, and then things really start to take off. Lots of love, everyone. I'm going to leave you with that, and I will see you again very soon. Much love.